Have you ever found yourself working hard, giving your all, yet seeing little to no change in your results? I've met hundreds of people like that. They read books, attend seminars, work from dawn till midnight, yet their lives remain stuck at the same point. And then they ask themselves, where did I go wrong? The answer, my friend, doesn't lie in the work you're doing or in the changing economy. The real battle of life doesn't happen out there. It happens within the philosophy you carry inside. Because every result in life, from money, health, relationships to happiness, begins with philosophy. If your philosophy is weak, your results will be weak. If your philosophy is strong, your life will be strong. The problem is, most people never choose their own philosophy. They inherit it from parents, from society, from disappointed friends, from the media, from untested advice, and they live according to someone else's blueprint, then wonder why their lives don't seem to work. In today's video, I want to share with you 10 foundational principles to build a powerful personal philosophy, one that can guide you in the right direction no matter how life's winds may change. Stay until the end, because Principle 9 will reveal a truth that might forever change how you see success and time. Principle 1, life follows your philosophy. I once said, the real battle of life doesn't happen in the marketplace, in politics, or in technology. It happens inside each person's philosophy. Because every result in your life, good or bad, begins with the thoughts you carry in your mind. Look around, some people start from very ordinary places, yet create extraordinary results, while others, despite having more advantages, remain stuck in frustration. What creates that gap? Not circumstances, not luck, it's philosophy. Each of us carries an invisible operating system, one that determines how we see the world, how we react, how we invest our time, how we face failure, and how we define success. Some people live by the philosophy, work hard, and luck will eventually find you. But as the years go by, they realize luck never comes knocking. Others believe, if I become better, my life will become better. And strangely enough, their lives do change. Philosophy is like the compass on your ship. You can't control where the wind blows, but you can control the direction you choose to sail. If your philosophy is just a few degrees off, you may find yourself lost in the ocean of life after many years. If your philosophy is right and steady, no matter how fierce the waves, your ship will reach its destination. I once met a man in his 40 seconds. He worked tirelessly early mornings, late nights, harder than anyone else. But when I asked him, "Are you happy with your life?" he paused for a moment and said, "Honestly, I don't even know why I'm doing all this anymore." He had a job responsibilities, a business card, but no clear philosophy of life. And when you don't have a philosophy, you become a tool in someone else's. You see, we can't control the wind, but we can control how we set our sails. We can't choose where we start, but we can choose how we think. And it is philosophy that steers every decision you make. So if you want to change your results, don't start by changing your environment. Don't blame your job, others, or society. Start by examining the philosophy you live by. Because life doesn't reward effort, it rewards right thinking. You can spend your whole life taking action, but if your actions are guided by the wrong thinking, you'll just move faster in the wrong direction. Conversely, a strong philosophy can turn your smallest steps into a great journey. Life doesn't choose anyone special, it simply mirrors the philosophy you believe each day. If you believe you can learn, you'll grow. If you believe you're stuck, you'll be right. Because belief always finds a way to become reality. So don't just live. Pause and ask yourself, what philosophy is running my life every day? Is it serving me or silently betraying me? Because only when you answer that question do you truly begin to take control of your life. In the next principle, we'll talk about a mistake most people make, living by a default philosophy they never chose. And that's exactly what causes them to drift through life without knowing why. Principle 2, beware of the default philosophy. I once asked a group of students during a talk, if your life were a house who drew its blueprint, the room went silent. One softly replied, I don't know, it just turned out this way. And that's the problem. Most people never choose their own philosophy of life. They inherit it from parents, teachers, television, friends, society, as if collecting fragments of other people's beliefs and piecing them together into their own operating system without ever checking if it still fits. One might grow up in an environment saying, money is the root of all evil. Another hears all their life, it's okay as long as we have enough to get by. Someone else believes everything depends on luck. And they live their entire lives by those phrases as if they were truth. They don't realize that every unexamined belief becomes an invisible chain. It binds how you think, how you dream, and even how you see yourself. I call that the default philosophy. It's like using a new phone without ever customizing it. You just stick with the preloaded apps even if most are useless. Or like wearing the same old clothes that no longer fit, just because they still work. And the scary part is, you could live your whole life that way, never knowing you have the power to change. The default philosophy makes people drift instead of steer. If life's wind blows one way, they go that way. If circumstances are good, they're happy. If hard, they complain. No compass, no principles, no anchor. And after many years, they wake up, look back and ask, why am I here? Where did I go wrong? But the truth is, they never went wrong. They just never chose a direction. I once met a middle-aged man, a hard-working employee, never late, always responsible. He said to me, Jim, I don't understand why after all these years my life hasn't changed. I asked him one question, what's your philosophy about work? He thought for a while and said, I believe if I just work hard, my boss will notice and reward me. I smiled and said, that's the problem. Life doesn't pay for time, it pays for value. And if your philosophy doesn't create new value, it will keep you exactly where you are. That's the power and danger of the default philosophy. It makes you believe you're living right when in fact, you're living by someone else's belief. Maybe you've heard all your life, don't dream too big or you'll be disappointed. Life just isn't fair. People like us can't get rich. And if you believe those long enough, they become your personal truth. From there, you start living smaller, dreaming less, daring less, doing less, never realizing it's your philosophy limiting you every day. The default philosophy is like a calm current, quiet, gentle, yet slowly pulling you far from shore without you noticing. And by the time you look back, you've lost direction, lost time, lost yourself. Remember, you can't control where you were born, but you can choose the beliefs you live by. Philosophy isn't something you find, it's something you build. If you don't write it yourself, someone else will. If you don't design it, society will. And believe me, a borrowed philosophy will always betray you when you need it most. So take the time to sit down and ask yourself, what beliefs am I living by that I never chose? Who put them in my mind, and do I have the courage to change them? Because the first step to freedom isn't making more money, it's reclaiming the right to think for yourself. In Principle 3, we'll talk about one of life's most ruthless yet fair laws, that small mistakes, if repeated long enough, create massive gaps. And that's why a weak philosophy can silently destroy more than you can imagine. Principle 3, small errors compound. I once said, failure is nothing more than a few small errors in judgment repeated every day. Failure doesn't arrive overnight. It shows up quietly, bit by bit, in the small choices you think are no big deal. Look at how most people live. They know reading is good, but they think, I'm tired today, I'll do it tomorrow. They know they should save, but they tell themselves, it's just one coffee. They know exercise is beneficial, but they say, I'll start next week. Once is fine. Twice is still fine. But 3 times, 5 times, then 100 times, and you've formed a philosophy of neglect. And that is the road to slow but certain failure. Life doesn't punish you immediately. If you eat a pastry today, you won't gain weight tomorrow. If you skip a book today, your wallet won't be empty right away. But every result has a lag. Today's choices are invisible seeds, and they will grow over time whether you notice or not. I've compared life to a fertile field. You can plant seeds of knowledge, discipline, responsibility, or you can plant nothing and let the weeds grow. And you know what? The soil is never left empty. If you don't plant good seeds, nature will plant bad ones for you. And after many years, you'll harvest a field you never wanted simply because you neglected it for too long. Life is the same. One day of procrastination, no problem. 1 week of laziness, still okay. But a decade of small mistakes, neglect, and weak philosophy will create an unimaginable gap. I once watched 2 friends of the same age, same school, starting with the same salary. The first said, I'll study later. I'm just going to enjoy myself now. The second said, I'll read 30 minutes every day. 5 years later, the first still complained about work while the second had become a manager. Not because they were so different, but because their daily action philosophies were different. One chose comfort, the other chose discipline. And over time, that gap multiplied like the compound interest of thinking. The scary thing is, small mistakes also have compound interest, but in the opposite direction. They accumulate into habits, into character, and ultimately into destiny. Have you ever wondered, why do some people need only 5 years to change their lives, while others spend 20 years stuck in place? The answer lies here. No one fails because of one big decision. People fail because of thousands of small, misdirected choices guided by a flawed philosophy. If you believe it's fine, you'll let things slide. If you believe just a little, you'll repeat it every day. But what's small today becomes a big result tomorrow. A small seed of procrastination will grow into a forest of regret. You see, philosophy isn't only in the grand ideas, it lives in your daily small actions. Each choice is a brick. And after many years, you'll live in the house you built, whether you like it or not. So never underestimate the small deviations. If you want to change your life, don't wait for a crisis to hit. Start calibrating each small choice, each thought, each reaction. Because as I've said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Remember, the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful isn't ability, it's the philosophy behind each small action. In Principle 4, I'll share the real turning point, how to redesign your life philosophy deliberately, clearly, and sustainably. Because if the default philosophy makes you drift, then the design philosophy will put you back on course. Principle 4. Design your philosophy. If the default philosophy makes you drift unconsciously, then the design philosophy is the rudder that steers you back to the right direction. I once said, don't let your learning be accidental, design it. And the same is true of life. Don't let your philosophy form by accident. Design it. A strong philosophy doesn't appear on its own. It's built intentionally, like a house with a clear blueprint before the first brick is laid. Imagine you're the architect of your own life. If you start building a house without a blueprint, what happens? You put up a wall here, then tear it down. You build a window there, then realize it faces the wrong way. The result? A mess of effort, time, and exhaustion. That's exactly how many people live, very hardworking, but without a map. They work more, but don't go farther. They try every day, but don't know why. Because they've never stopped to design a philosophy, the thing that shapes every action they take. A sound life philosophy will answer 3 core questions for you. 1, what do I believe in? 2, what am I living to pursue? 3, what am I willing to trade to uphold that value? When you answer those 3 questions, you begin to lay a solid foundation. And from that foundation, every action, from how you work, how you speak, to how you decide, becomes consistent and meaningful. I remember a former student once asked me, teacher, where should I start changing? I said, not with your job, not with other people, but with your philosophy. Because your job can change, people can leave, but the right philosophy will guide you for life. He started by writing down each of his beliefs. I believe success comes from initiative, not luck. I believe my value isn't in my position, but in my growth. I believe lifelong learning is a responsibility, not a hobby. Those small lines over time became the compass for his every action. And in just a few years, he changed completely, not because the world around him changed, but because the philosophy within him grew. Remember, a life philosophy doesn't need to be complicated, but it must be clear. It's like a set of personal laws you write for yourself. I don't procrastinate. I always choose responsibility over blame. I take action every day, even if it's just one small step. And once you have your own philosophy, your life will change in ways you never expected. Because you no longer live to react, you live to choose proactively. If you're beginning the journey of redesigning your philosophy of life, subscribe to the Jim Rohn Treasures channel, so each new video becomes a brick in the foundation of your life. Because by changing your philosophy, you will change your future. And here's the wonderful thing. Once you have an inner blueprint, everything you do has meaning. When others complain about the wind, you simply adjust the sails. When life throws challenges at you, you smile because you know they're helping you grow. The right philosophy doesn't make life easier, but it makes you stronger to get through anything. In Principle 5, I'll share one of my favorite images, that your life philosophy is the blueprint of your life. And if you dare to design it, you'll dare to live a life you're proud of. Principle 5, your philosophy is your blueprint. I once met a builder. He arrived at the site with a truck full of bricks, cement, and every tool. But when I asked, do you have a blueprint? He laughed. I've built for years. I know what to do. And you know what happened? After a few weeks, the wall he built was crooked. He tore it down and did it again. The house looked warped, unbalanced, costly, and exhausting. I looked at him and thought, that's the picture of millions of people out there. They wake up every morning, work hard, keep pushing, but have no blueprint for their lives. They have tools, intelligence, health time. They have materials, jobs, relationships, opportunities, but they lack the mental blueprint, a clear philosophy to guide them. And so they build, then tear down, then build again, a house of sweat but without shape, a life full of effort but lacking direction. You see, philosophy is the blueprint behind every result. It decides which wall you raise, which window you open, and what foundation you choose to stand on. If the blueprint is wrong, no matter how much effort you pour in, the house will collapse. But if the blueprint is right, all your efforts become meaningful because they move in the right direction. A strong philosophy is like the frame that shapes your life. It tells you what to keep and what to let go of. It helps you stand firm when others are confused. And most importantly, it helps you work for purpose, not just out of habit. Look at truly successful people. They don't act randomly. They act from a clearly formed belief system. Their philosophy is, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Don't wish it were easier, wish you were better. Success is something you attract by the person you become. Those aren't just nice sayings, they're the inner blueprint they live by every day. And that blueprint is what helps them build careers, relationships, and character that endure over the years. Conversely, many others keep trying to add another floor while forgetting the foundation is leaning. They change jobs, change cities, change environments, but they still carry the wrong blueprint inside. So wherever they go, they repeat the same results, because you can't build a solid building on the foundation of ambiguity. I want you to imagine this. If your life is a building, then each belief you hold is a line on the blueprint. One wrong line, I'm not good enough, I don't have opportunities, I can't change, and that building will tilt little by little each year. But if you simply redraw the line, replace I can't with I'm learning, to the entire architecture of your life will change. That's why I always say, don't start with your job, start with your philosophy. Don't start by making more money, start by thinking better. The right blueprint doesn't just help you know what you want, it helps you know what you don't want. Because in life, we're often defeated not by a lack of opportunity, but by scrambled priorities. When you have a clear philosophy, you won't get dragged into the trivial. You know what deserves your time and what's only stealing your energy. So if you're feeling confused, if you find yourself working hard without progress, pause and ask, what blueprint am I using to build my life? Is it my blueprint or someone else's? Because no matter where you are, as long as you redraw the blueprint, you can rebuild your life. In Principle 6, I'll talk about something every successful person understands. Life doesn't change when the wind changes. It changes when you know how to adjust the sails. That is the art of adjust your sails, the skill of mastering your course in any circumstance. Principle 6, adjust your sails. I once said the same wind blows on us, all the wind of opportunity and the wind of change. The difference is how you set your sail. Life's wind chooses no one in particular. The same wind can carry one person to the shores of success, but it can also sink another in the ocean of disappointment. What makes the difference is not the wind's direction, but how you adjust your sails. I remember the first time I went sailing with a close friend. When the wind shifted, I started to worry. He just smiled, gripped the helm, gave the sheet a gentle pull, and said, "Jim, we can't change the wind, but we can change our course." That line stayed with me for life. From then on, I realized in life, everyone faces the wind of failure, the wind of change, the wind of loss. But successful people don't pray for a fair wind. They train their navigation skills. You can't control the economy, but you can control how you respond to it. You can't stop others from criticizing, but you can choose not to let their words determine your course. You can't choose the weather, but you can choose your attitude. That's what a strong philosophy teaches you. Don't try to change the world out there, adjust what's inside, because the wind will always shift. Technology changes, careers change, markets change. But if you know how to adjust your sails, every wind can become energy to move you forward. Remember, a good sailor doesn't wait for calm seas. They learn to steer in heavy waves and strong winds. Likewise, in life, you don't need to wait for perfect conditions to start. You just need to know how to adapt without losing your direction. When changing careers, when you lose an opportunity, or when all your plans fall apart, pause and ask, is this wind pushing against me or trying to teach me how to steer better? Because inside every crisis, there's a lesson in navigation. I once coached a young entrepreneur. He said, "Jim, this year has been terrible. The market shifted, investors pulled out, the team left." I smiled and said, maybe the year isn't terrible. Maybe the wind just changed direction. The question is, do you know how to adjust your sails? A few months later, he came back with bright eyes. "You were right. I couldn't change the wind, but I changed course. Instead of clinging to the old, I learned new skills and built a smaller but more cohesive team." The result, he not only survived, he grew stronger. Sadly, many people, when they meet a headwind, they furl the sails. They quit, they blame, they stop. And they don't realize that precisely when the wind is against you is when you can learn the greatest navigation skills of your life. The sail represents your thinking. If you let the wind decide your direction, you'll drift. But if you know how to trim the sails, meaning adjust your mindset, attitude, and beliefs, then even a headwind can carry you far. So next time life doesn't go the way you want, don't ask, why did the wind change? Ask, am I adjusting correctly? Am I reacting or am I navigating? That's the question successful people ask themselves every day. In Principle 7, we'll talk about a truth. Many people don't want to hear that effort alone is not enough, because life doesn't pay for hard work, it only pays for results guided by the right philosophy. Principle 7, effort is not enough. I once met a remarkable man. For 20 years, he arrived at work on time, never late a single day. He was diligent, honest, and dedicated. When I asked, do you feel like you're making progress? He gave a sad smile and said, not much, Jim, but I believe if I just keep trying one day, things will change. 20 years later, he was still in the same position, earning the same salary, living in the same old apartment. Not because he didn't work hard, but because his philosophy was wrong. He believed that if he just worked hard, life would reward him on its own. But you see, life doesn't pay for time, it pays for value. And value comes from the right philosophy, not blind effort. Let me tell you another story. A young woman I once coached, she had an ordinary job, low pay, and no special connections. But she had a different philosophy. She said, if I grow myself, my income will grow with me. Every day after work, she read. Every month, she saved 10% of her income, no matter how little. She asked questions of people better than her, took notes on every lesson, and kept learning new skills. 10 years later, not only had she been promoted 3 times, she had also built a small business of her own. She didn't just work hard, she worked in the right direction. And that philosophy led her to a completely different life. See, both people tried, both worked every day. But one went in circles, the other went upward. The difference wasn't in effort, but in the direction of the effort. A ship rowing the wrong way will drift farther from shore, no matter how hard the crew rows. A person climbing the wrong mountain will grow more exhausted, no matter how strong their legs are. And someone living with the wrong philosophy will grow more discouraged, no matter how much they try. Effort is fuel, but philosophy is the rudder. Without a rudder, fuel only makes you spin faster inside your own maze. I once said in an entrepreneur training, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And the room fell silent. I explained, your job creates income, but you with your philosophy, mindset, and skills create value. If you become better, the world will pay you more. But if you don't grow, then even if companies change, technology changes, markets change, you'll still be stuck. That's why I always say, don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Don't wish for a lighter life. Wish to become stronger. Because when you grow stronger, old problems grow smaller. We live in an era where people are busier than ever. But busy doesn't mean progress. Many people work 10 hours a day, yet after 10 years, they're still in the same place because they don't learn, they just repeat. While others invest 1 hour each evening in the right philosophy, and 10 years later, they live in a completely different world. The question isn't, are you working hard? The real question is, are you developing yourself faster than your job is developing? If you only work to make a living, you'll always worry. But if you work to develop yourself, you'll never fear the future. Because the future doesn't belong to the hardest worker, it belongs to the fastest learner and adapter. Today, ask yourself, am I investing more in my job or in myself? Am I working hard to survive or growing to rise because effort is good? But only when guided by the right philosophy does it create a life worthy of you. In Principle 8, we'll go deeper to the root of change. How to replace the weak beliefs that quietly hold you back with powerful philosophies that can lift you in any circumstance. Principle 8. Replace weak beliefs. There's something I've realized after many years of observation. People don't live by reality. They live by their beliefs about reality. You can have limitless potential, but if you believe I can't, that potential will stay locked, not by the outside world, but by you. I once spoke with a man who always complained about money. He said, Jim, I never have any money. Money just corrupts people. I asked, if you truly believe money corrupts people, do you think your subconscious will allow you to have money? He laughed awkwardly. Probably not. And I said, exactly. Because you can't pursue what you secretly believe is bad. His belief betrayed him. He worked all his life, but his subconscious kept pushing money away because he believed holding on to money was wrong. So he stayed poor, not for lack of opportunity, but for lack of the right philosophy. Weak beliefs are like weed seeds. They grow fast but bear no fruit. And the most dangerous part is they hide in your mind where you don't see them every day, yet they control everything you do. Phrases like, I'm not good enough, I don't have time, I wasn't born lucky, I'm afraid of being judged, all are signs of a weak philosophy, one that quietly destroys your confidence, your effort, and your vision. But the good news is beliefs can be replaced, and philosophy is the most powerful tool to do it. Try reviewing every belief you hold. Where did I learn this? Who told me I couldn't? Is this still true for me today? When you question them, you begin to separate yourself from your old beliefs. And that's the moment you regain control of your mind. I once coached a young woman. She told me, I always feel unworthy. I'm afraid to fail. I'm afraid of being laughed at. I said, that's okay. But let me ask you this. If a friend told you, I'm afraid to fail, so I'll never try, what would you advise them? She was quiet, then said I'd tell them to try anyway, because life only rewards those who step out. I smiled. Then why don't you say that to yourself? Sometimes we need to talk to ourselves like a friend. Replace the critical voice with an encouraging one. Because if you won't believe in yourself, who will believe for you? One belief replacement formula I always teach my students is 1-Ray. Identify the weak belief. Example, I'm not good at communicating. 280, rewrite a new belief that's positive and realistic. I'm learning to communicate more confidently every day. 3000, reinforce it with small daily actions. Talk to a stranger, share one idea in a meeting. When you repeat the new belief with real actions, your mind will gradually accept it as a new truth. Don't forget, beliefs also compound. A right belief nurtured daily accumulates into tremendous inner strength. Conversely, a weak belief, if left unreplaced, compounds into fear, doubt, and regret. So don't let your mind become a storage room for old beliefs. Clean it regularly, just like you tidy your room and your desk. Because with a tidy mind, new philosophy has space to take root and grow. Today, ask yourself, is there any belief I'm holding that no longer serves me? And what stronger belief am I willing to replace it with? Because by replacing just one weak belief with the right philosophy, you can change the entire course of your life. In Principle 9, we'll talk about a wonderful law that philosophy compounds just like money. And if you nurture it properly, it will quietly create an extraordinary life. Principle 9, philosophy compounds like money. There's a wondrous law of life that few recognize. Everything you believe, think, and do accumulates. And so does your philosophy of life. It doesn't produce results immediately, but over the years, each small thought, each right choice, each disciplined action will combine, compound, and create a completely different life. I once said philosophy compounds just like money in the bank. Ideas are like money. If you invest correctly, they yield interest. But if you're lazy or invest poorly, that interest becomes a mountain of regret. Imagine you deposit money in the bank. Each day you add just a little, a few dollars, a few $1,000s. At first, nothing seems noteworthy, but after a few years, that money starts to multiply, not just because you add more, but because interest earns interest. Philosophy operates the very same way. If each day you plant one good idea in your mind, it will multiply with time. One book, one lesson, one small habit tomorrow, nothing much has changed. But 10 years later, everything is completely different. I once told this story in a speech. 2 men of the same age, same circumstances, same job. The first believes life is a matter of luck, so he spends everything he earns, saves nothing, learns nothing new. The second believes life responds to discipline, so he saves a little each month, reads and learns new skills. After 10 years, the first is still stuck tired, complaining, drowning in debt. The second has a better job, a peaceful mindset, and financial freedom. Not because of different fates, but because of different compounded philosophies. One person compounds weak beliefs, weak results. The other compounds strong beliefs, a strong life. As simple as that. Someone said to me, Jim, it's hard to change a life with just philosophy. I smiled and replied, you've been building your life with philosophy all along, you just didn't realize it. If you believe a day off won't hurt, you'll compound procrastination. If you believe this little bit doesn't matter, you'll compound mediocrity. And conversely, if you believe I'll be 1% better each day, you'll compound progress. And you know what? The difference between average and great doesn't come from giant leaps, but from small daily additions. Think about your body. One person chooses to eat carelessly each day, and another chooses to exercise for 30 minutes. In a month, there's little different. After 1 year, it starts to show. After 10 years, the gap is enormous. That is the power of compound interest in life philosophy. I call it the quiet formula of greatness. Not loud, not boastful, but steady a little each day. Because life doesn't reward the impulsive. It rewards those who stay consistent with the right philosophy. That's why I always advise my students, feed your mind good ideas daily. Because ideas, like money, gather interest. Nourish your mind with good ideas every day, because ideas, like money, will earn interest. And here's what you must remember. There's no neutrality in accumulation. You're either building strength or you're building weakness. There is no middle ground. Each day, you're either getting closer to your dreams or farther away. Not because of anything grand you did today, but because of the philosophy you repeat in each small choice. Ask yourself, what am I compounding in my mind each day? Am I depositing powerful ideas into my mental bank, or doubts, fears, and excuses? Because time will always pay interest. The only question is, will it pay you in results or in regret? And in Principle 10, the final part, I'll have you face life's biggest question. Are you living by a default philosophy or a philosophy you chose? Because today's choice will shape the entire rest of your life. Principle 10. Choose your path. Life waits for no one. Every morning you wake up and stand before two roads. On one side is the default philosophy, living by habit, reacting to circumstances, letting time decide your fate. On the other side is the design philosophy, living with intention, acting by values, and deciding the path you will take. No one can choose for you. Not your parents, not your boss, not society, only you hold the map of your life. I once said, you cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. You can't change your destination in a single day, but you can change direction today. And with just that change, your entire future will gradually shift. Like a ship at sea off by just 1 degree today, and in a few years, you'll dock in a completely different world. You see, life isn't fair, but it is precise. It doesn't pay for prayers, it pays for actions. It doesn't reward complainers, it rewards learners. It doesn't favor the grumblers, it favors the responsible. And do you know the miracle? You can start over any time. No need for a New Year's Day. No need for a special occasion. Just one decision from today, I choose a stronger philosophy of life. People often think changing a life is something huge. But in fact, it begins with small questions. What am I believing that's no longer true? What am I spending time on that's no longer worthy? Whose philosophy am I living by? And then when you dare to answer honestly, you'll see that everything you've been seeking is not out there, but right within the philosophy you choose to live each day. I once said, in a speech, life doesn't require perfection. It requires correction. Life doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to make corrections, correct beliefs, correct direction, correct philosophy. Because if you don't correct today, life will correct you in harsher ways through failure, through loss, through regret. But if you act proactively, each day becomes a chance to move closer to your best self. I want you to imagine 5 years from now, you look back on today, will you smile because you chose the right philosophy, or regret that you let life drift without direction because the next 5 years will pass whether you act or not? The question is, who will you become after those 5 years? Someone swept along by circumstances, or someone steering circumstances with your philosophy? Remember, life doesn't ask whether you want to play it, only asks, which rules will you play by? The rules of default or the rules of design? If you don't proactively write your own story, someone else will write it for you, and they won't write the ending you want. So start today. Sit down, take a sheet of paper, and write 3 things, the beliefs you must let go of. 2-1. The values you will live by. 3-1. The principles you will defend even in a storm. That is your first declaration of life philosophy. And when you live in alignment with it, your life will operate in ways you never imagined. The winds will always change, but you decide how to set the sail. Choose discipline over neglect. Choose growth over comfort. Choose design over default. Because in the end, your philosophy will decide your destiny. If you feel these words resonate with your heart, please like, subscribe, and share this video to spread the right life philosophy to more people. Because sometimes one right philosophy doesn't just change one life, it can change an entire generation. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.